President Trump is directing the Justice Department to investigate Act Blue. This is a Democratic donation platform, and the focus as the allegations about illegal straw donors and foreign contributions. Mark Meredith is live in Washington with more. This has been brewing for a while, Mark. What do we need to know?
Dana, for years, you're right about this, but this is a big development. The White House is directing the Attorney General to investigate the Democratic Party's top fundraising platform. It's called Act Blue, and the president says he wants to know if foreign money is being donated to the group and then utilized to sway elections. Democrats are calling this probe a dangerous abuse of power. Act Blue is an enormous operation in Democratic politics. It's raised more than $16 billion since 2004. You may have seen the text pop up from candidates saying, please donate, go to the Act Blue website. Republicans use something similar called Win Red. There was a new memo signed on Thursday directing the Attorney General to investigate if foreign nationals are using the Act Blue platform to bypass campaign finance laws. Trump wants a report out in 6 months. Republicans who've been looking to this for years up on the Hill say a formal federal investigation is long overdue.
We know nefarious countries that don't have the United States interests at heart are looking for ways to influence and impact U.S. policy. Making sure that we're closing the door to that as it relates to campaign finance and as it relates to actually voting in U.S. elections is absolutely essential.
Act Blue says it's ready to defend itself, including through the courts. Overnight, the new chairman of the Democratic National Committee released a blistering statement accusing Trump of trying to silence his opposition. Ken Mart writing, Trump is trying to block lawful grassroots donations from supporters, giving just $5 or $10 to candidates who oppose him, while further empowering the corrupt billionaires who already control his administration. And Danny, you'll love this. This controversy could end up helping Act Blue, at least in the short term. The website is now raising money off the investigation, encouraging people to donate to Act Blue, mentioning it's a Trump target. It's right there on their front page.
Yeah, probably nothing better than to fuel those donations for the moment. Thank you.
Yeah. Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House, joins us now. Good morning to you. Axios reports that there were 3 Republican-led committees that found 22 cases of significant fraud in Act Blue. When you were in Congress, were you aware of this? And if so, what are the details?
Well, what you found out was there's suspicious patterns. And remember, this is probably the largest platform, and they do more than just Democrat donations within there. But what we found is that there are elderly names, meaning people who are deceased that are still giving. They have people listed that have given 10,000 times in a year. When contacted, one man in Maryland said he gave 3,000 times on Act Blue, but he said he only gave a couple times. It had some people who were low income that didn't have much money, had them listed as like super donors, giving thousands of dollars. When contacted by one woman, she gave 1 time. And this is the way that if you steal names, it's a way for foreign entities to influence elections. So these suspicious patterns where someone's giving 10,000 times or somebody has deceased names, that should be investigated, and there should be no problem with this investigation.
Do you have any concerns that it seems political and that if and when a Democrat is in a position of power, that they would turn the tables and try to do this to win red?
Well, look, I think Win Red has been investigated too. The thing you don't like, especially when online, when someone goes and gives 1 time, then automatically they start giving every single month. That becomes a true problem. And these are things that the FEC investigates. The only reason why Act Blue is going further is because, think about this 1 minute, Dana, that is someone really giving 10,000 times in 1 year? Is somebody that is deceased, are you stealing their name? An investigation doesn't mean a person is prosecuted. It's questions, and it's because of the patterns that they have found of why the investigation's taken place. Okay. But everybody should be held accountable. If you see those patterns on Win Red, it should be investigated.
So let's move to this other story. David Hogg's 25 years old. He's getting a lot of attention, maybe perhaps too much attention, actually. But he's an officer of the DNC and apparently supposed to be impartial. Here's the DNC chair, Ken Martin, talking about his fate and future.
I think he's an amazing young leader who's done so much already to help move our movement forward. I understand what he's trying to do. As I've said to him, if you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but just not as an officer of the DNC, because our job is to be neutral arbiters. We can't be both the referee and also the player at the same time.
So that's Thursday. You know, Hogg's not going to sit back and be quiet about about it. I mean, he's clearly showing the pattern about his response. Here's what he said on X. They're trying to change the rules because I'm not currently breaking them. We can't fix a 27% approval rating by just changing our words. We need to change who we are. I think this is bigger than David Hogg. It says a lot about the party itself. What do you think it says about it?
Is much bigger. The party we're watching today, Democrat, is a civil war. It's the reason why there are no leaders of the party. If there was a leader, this wouldn't be going on. And it goes further than what you're talking about, David, because just yesterday, the Senate minority leader in Florida not only quit his job, quit the party. And he's elected. He's the leader of the Senate for the Democrats. He quit the party, became an independent, and said the Democratic Party is dead. This is a real concern when you think overall Democrats, but also if you're a Schumer or Hakeem, you are not a strong enough leader. They want somebody else. If you're wanting to run for president, somebody is not strong. And what we're watching is that internal fight for someone to be able to capture the party. Right now, if you're on the outside looking in, that seems to be AOC or Bernie Sanders. They're getting the biggest crowds. They're showing the leadership. But if you're a Democrat, you should be very concerned because their views are so far left. They're outside of the party into the socialist wing of the party. And I don't believe that would ever lead America, but that's where the party currently fight is the strongest.
I do think the generational thing it's so interesting. You had Dick Durbin, the senator from Illinois, say, I'm not going to run again for another term. He's in his 80s. A lot of the leadership, as you know, you worked with them, they are up there. And so do you think that others will follow in Dick Durbin's footsteps?
They should. Otherwise, I think they'll lose a primary. You might not want this David Hogg primarying people, but I think he can win a lot of them. Some of these people stay too long. And I think the best thing that you can have is that you have these elections. But Durbin leaving, I think there's a couple different things. He's been there too long from one perspective if he wanted to run again, but it's smart. Bring some new people through, have an open primary because the Democrat National Committee in the last presidential elections, last couple, influenced who would be the nominee instead of letting the party pick that person. When you do that, you develop a civil war because people are frustrated their voice is not being heard.
Kevin, thanks. Kevin McCarthy there. On the road, appreciate you coming on. While you're talking, by the way, Donald Trump is speaking on the South Lawn of the White House. We're going to turn this around in a moment. He's asked a lot of questions, by the way, Kevin. China, Ukraine, the Pope, etc. We'll get that funeral tomorrow morning where he and the First Lady are now headed. Thank you for your time today, Kevin.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.